So can you point to me an exact point of the system, an exact place in the system, a policy that is designed to deprive Black Americans of rights?
The same people that designed the system.
Matt Walsh totally schools this not so smart dude when it comes to systemic racism. Matt Walsh went on the Counterpoint show where he had no problem owning this gentleman right here who absolutely had nothing to say for himself. Let's see what Matt Walsh had to say.
For a house to have a roof and a second floor that is sturdy, but when you walk into the second floor, you fall through it.
But that
and
doesn't
the roof
reflect
collapses on you.
But that doesn't reflect on your anti-roof sentiments.
Yeah, and also
it doesn't matter.
And
Like,
also,
built
but to use your analogy, if you walk into a house and there's a problem in the house, you can't automatically assume that it's the fault of whoever built the house. It could be, depending on the problem. But you also have to look at who's living in the house, who's supposed to be maintaining the house. And if you're living in a house and you're not taking care of it, and in fact you're mistreating the house and it goes to hell, and then you turn around and blame whoever built the house 100 years ago, well, I'm going to say, like, well, this is at some point you got to take responsibility for your own house. And so that's my point with the Black community as it stands right now in America. Yes, as we've already established, there was actual systemic racism against the Black community for a long time. It's a terrible, evil thing. Everybody agrees on that point. I don't think anyone disagrees. That is over now. There is no longer a system in place that is designed to deprive Black Americans of rights. I mean, would you agree with that at least?
No, I do think it's still designed that way, but it's designed.
There is no convincing people that this whole systemic, like modern day systemic racism, like isn't a thing. Like if we do have a system in place that's designed to keep Blacks down, it's a pretty horrible system because there are like tons and tons of successful Black people.
In a way where it can't be litigated because it's not in the law.
Okay, but so can you point to me an exact point of the system, an exact place in the system, a policy that is designed to deprive Black Americans of rights?
The same people that designed the system to protect the wealth of the upper class, in the 40s, throughout American history, like continued to be in control.
Yeah, but now you're talking about class, not race. I'm talking about race.
Right, but how do you disrupt class if you're so segregated by, how do you disrupt race if you're so segregated by class?
Well, but I don't think you can bring class into this, because I would agree that we could talk about class. I'll agree that there are elites who care about themselves and don't care about the lower class. I would say that those people are just as unconcerned with a white person in a trailer park in Appalachia as they are unconcerned with a Black person in the inner city. So it is class. We could talk about that. But my question was, because we talk about the system, it's a broad concept here. So let's narrow it down. Let's find a piece of the system that we can point to and say, well, this is designed to hurt Black people.
Okay, so if you go to Georgia, for instance, after they implemented school desegregation, what they started doing is saying, oh, okay, well, we can't legally keep Black people out of our neighborhoods or out of our schools, but what we can do is we can secede from our neighborhoods. You've been to the Atlanta suburbs?
A little bit.
Like every four...
Unfortunately.
Like every four...
Try to stay away.
Yeah.
Like every 4 blocks for a long time, you had like new school districts, and they would be drawn... They would be just basically gerrymandered. Like they would know where the white people were, and they would gerrymander the school district so that only white people would be a part of this.
Yeah, but you're going back to desegregation.
No. This is what they're doing now. Like this is up to today. Like, so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, these are the new laws in place. However, we like our system of segregation and racism that we have here. So how do we hire the best lawyers?
Is that about class? Or
to show that, but it's also about race.
Well, but I'm saying, do you think primarily in the minds of the designers of the system, are they actually discriminating intentionally on a class basis?
Or is it pretty race driven?
Source, but also too, it's fascinating how this dude right here, how this guy, I don't know, I'm looking at this guy. Is he wearing a toupee? Is that a hairpiece? It looks like it could be one. It looks like you could just rip it right off and, reveals like just baldness on top right there. But it's fascinating how this guy, he keeps conflating like class and race. Like, what are you trying to say? Like, what are you trying to say there, dude? That only black people are poor? Or only white people are rich? Like, that is not the case. There are many, many, many black millionaires out there. So, I mean, the fact that he keeps trying to conflate the two things, I think it's more telling of himself and his views than it is about this supposed systemic racism that is in place in this in that example he brings up. But what do you guys think? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy content like this. Let's continue.
I don't think that there's any evidence that it's racial. I think in like an example you give, it's class, it's people wanting to avoid crime-ridden, impoverished areas. Not maybe someone doesn't want to send their kids to school in a place that's high crime. There's going to be a lot of delinquency and everything in the school system. I don't think it's because the kids are black. It's just because of that. And also the other thing is when we talk about.
But at what point?
Hold on a second. When we talk about school districts or the way communities are set up, here's another point that rarely comes up. It's pretty simple. You can move, right? So you can always move. I mean, if you live in a community where you're claiming it's been set up systemically to disadvantage it, I don't buy that. But if I did, I would say, well, you should probably move from that community. I mean, you can go somewhere else. There's no law saying you can't. And if there was a law saying
some HOA situations will like try to block.
Yeah, but they're not going to say you can't move here if you're black.
It's also why a lot of black community groups support voucher systems to allow, like, work with conservatives on voucher systems to allow kids to get to different schools.
So when you see stats that say like
this dude, who is this guy? I've never seen counterpoints before. This guy seems like an adult, like a total brain-dead moron. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's other videos where he's showed off his sharp wit and his great intellect, his high intellect. But this isn't one of them. I mean, this was a pretty... Like, Matt Walsh is here talking common sense. Even that woman right there is, like, trying to tell this dude, like, some things. And this guy's like, oh, yeah, but, my racism. But the racism everywhere. This was what a show this is. Counterpoints. Huh. Interesting. Matt Walsh, I think, did a great job of explaining his point. It's not really that hard in this case. Like, things like this is pretty common sense. Like, it's pretty common sense. Like, there are no instances where it's systemically set up in these racist things. Yeah, you could bring up class things, but that's not the same thing as racial things, no matter how much this guy tries to conflate the two. So, yeah, kudos to Matt Walsh. If you want to see more of Matt Walsh, I got a whole playlist for you in the corner here, and I got some more content on the screen for you to check out. Go ahead, have fun, and enjoy.